Hey everyone, welcome to the show today. My so-called fabulous, and I'm back. And let me just go ahead and set the record straight. You know, I'm a foodie. I'm even more than a foodie. I'm a culinary girl. I'm a chef. I'm all the things. But when I have the opportunity to bring someone in, not just anyone, that is just, the accolades are unbelievable. Just listen up. Just listen up. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and start with the first Navy brat. All right, 2004, Food and Wine magazine's best new chefs, okay? At 27, the youngest chef in the United States to receive 4 stars from major publications, a 3-time James Beard Award nominee, 2 Michelin stars, all right? All right, let's just talk about TV. MasterChef Junior, Bravo's Top Chef, MasterChef. Culinary Director of Lollapalooza. If you've been to that, you get that. And now he is the Director of Culinary Development at Far Out Hospitality in Fort Worth, Texas. And you know what? Probably the most important today is he's my friend, Chef Graham Elliott. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that beautiful intro.
Wow.
You did, however, forget Times Man of the Year and People's Most Beautiful Man.
What?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Well, of course. Okay.
These are goals.
Okay. If you are on YouTube, check him out. I mean, let's just go ahead and check this guy out. You can't miss him with his glasses, his fabulous glasses. I've tried to mimic him, but I haven't done it yet. But everyone, I am so proud to have this man in our studio today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Goodness.
So happy to be here. Anytime that we get to hang out.
Yes, absolutely. So how do we hang out and how are we brought together is Le Margot in Fort Worth. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So Le Margot is our French-inspired restaurant. We always say inspired because, you know, Felipe and I and the rest of the team, none of us are born and raised in France. So, you know, the fact that we have diverse backgrounds, we can pull from all of those areas to influence the menu. So obviously the dining room, the level of service, excellence, et cetera, are things that we really, really try to hit out of the park, but also being approachable. But the fact that you've come in and really been able to help spread that message to your crowd and the masses, especially focused here in the local community of Fort Worth, has been invaluable. So thank you for that.
Well, you're so welcome. And I love it. And what we've done is we've taken this amazing, beautiful, the restaurant is exquisite. It's so beautiful. And all the concepts, actually. And we'll talk about that. But to bring the information to the masses where, you know, I think a lot of people in Fort Worth thought, oh my gosh, I have to wear a suit and tie, you know, and it's not that, right?
Right. No, that's what's great is it's a come as you are type of restaurant, which, you know, again, we'll touch on the other restaurants, but I think that's an underlying philosophy. And being approachable with the food, the service, having an inviting dining room, but especially getting over that initial trepidation of it's going to be fine dining, it's French, I don't know how to pronounce anything, you know, it's going to be anniversary only, things like that, where it's like, happy hour is awesome. You can come get just a bunch of oysters and champagne if you want. You can have an extended menu, everything from French onion soup to scallops, et cetera. I think that there is something for everybody, and we just try to have a great time and serve awesome food.
Absolutely. And you know what? And people, what I do want to get, because it seems like the sobriety move is so popular now, and it's so necessary for some people. And Le Margot makes the most fabulous mocktails.
Yes.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So Sophia De La Rosa, you know, she's key part of the team, but she oversees all the cocktails in all the restaurants. And it's the same philosophy that we, you know, approach food, she does with the cocktails. So you've got everything's, you know, made in-house. There's no really, you know, batching of products. You're smoking an old fashioned, you know, in front of the guest, infusing it. It's really amazing, again, to have a team where everyone's bringing in their own style and voice, but we all, at the end of the day, like a band, you know, play our part for something greater.
Absolutely. So, Graham, you're a Navy brat. Okay. So, military child traveling the world. What was the catalyst in going into the culinary world, to the food world?
Sure. I think when you travel and you're exposed to culture, food, really the idea of why people cook what they do, that was a huge turn on for me. And the fact, I've been to all 50 states. These are all the places we were stationed. I have 10 different schools.
Your tattoos.
Yeah, exactly. It's my little personal map, if you can see. So what's amazing is you're not born in like meat and potato country in a small town in Nebraska, and that's all you really know. Mm-hmm. Not anything against Nebraska, because obviously people travel and see things. But at the time, there was no Food Network. There's no blogging. There's no podcasts showing you those things. So you only know what you're really exposed to. Living in the Philippines, being able to try everything from monkey to dog to balut was, again, super eye-opening. And for me, the weirder the better. Like, oh my God, people eat snails. People eat frog legs. That is so sick. Like, we got to try it.
Right.
So that's always been really interesting to me. And then also, the fact that when you look at even different religions, if you're kosher, you don't eat shellfish. And other people will pay $100 for lobster,
right.
And again, some people have a pet pig and eat dogs, some vice versa, love bacon and have a pet dog. So you really start to understand, people, history, geography, beliefs, everything, as individuals and also as their community. And I think that that's very eye-opening and helps approach the food that I make and everything else in life.
Right. When did you know? When did you know this was going to be your incredible career path? And did you have any clue that your career would look like this?
No idea that food would be what I wanted to do. I love to cook. Interesting enough, my dad, who's very kind of black and white analytical, I think he would agree, is not the massive, let's open the fridge and make 100 different dishes type of guy. But he would make bread. He would get inspired and, go to India and come back with a ton of spices. He got into a wok phase, everything in a wok, like just really interesting and exposing stuff like that. So I knew I loved food. He was a diver. We'd go spearfishing together in Hawaii, the Philippines, catch an octopus, come home and cook it, like really fun stuff. But at 17, got a job as a busboy at the restaurant right down the street. Then saw the kitchen, and it was like a pirate ship, like just complete anarchy, music, everyone doing their thing, everyone smacking each other around, late nights. And it was like, oh my God, you get paid to do this. Like, I'd come over tomorrow, like just on a day off, and hang with everybody.
Wow.
And then you see ingredients. And I remember one time, all I'd ever been exposed to, in restaurants is, a wedge salad, maybe a Caesar. And they brought this box out with this purple paper and opened it up. And just the packaging was amazing. And it was Belgian endive. Oh. And I'd never seen this lettuce that looked like a little rocket, and it was white. And then you learn it's because it's not exposed to the sun, so it doesn't get photosynthesis and turn color. And I was like, that is sick. And then again, you step back and see that that's every facet of cooking.
Wow.
And
what's resonating with me, if you don't follow Chef Elliott, it's going to be in the show notes, but your Instagram stories, there's sick photos like this. Yeah. There are. I mean, and it's interesting, and I get it, but it's so fun to see that. And that's your brain, because that's what you've experienced.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's not like quote unquote clickbait. Obviously, I don't even think it's like any other reason for me personally when I see likes and comments, that it just makes me feel good. Like, people are happy and like it. Oh my God, I only got 2 likes. Got to delete and put like another one on. It's not like, well, these are the analytical things that show you. I don't care about that. But being able to show, look what I made, or look what I saw in the market, and just sharing that.
Right.
And now that the world is so tiny because of social media, I've got followers from every corner of the world. And when you showcase something, for every person that's like, that's gross, there's 2 more,
of course,
writing me a DM in a different language of how amazing that, next time you come to Turkey, you got to hang out with me and my family. And it's like, This is why food is the coolest thing. We all eat and we all love to sit around a table.
Yes. And didn't you just go to Croatia? Did you go to Croatia?
Serbia.
Serbia
And Turkey, yes.
Serbia. And I saw you actually doing that, sitting at someone's dining table in their home.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And experiencing actually, not in a restaurant, but what their culture is and what their ingredients are.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's circle back to where you are in Texas now. And you have obviously had a fabulous restaurant in Chicago with a different concept from Les Margot, of course. Okay. Les Margot, is French one of your favorite cuisines to cook, prepare?
You know, when I was younger and starting out in the food world, I was pretty much anti-French because my whole philosophy is if it's not broken, break it. So the minute you say, here's the brigade system, it's like, no, everyone's equal. We all wore the same 501 jeans, Converse, and a t-shirt with our logo on it. So if you were the bartender, chef, sous chef, dishwasher, everyone could kind of do everyone's job and help and fill out. So it's like you're in a band. You have an instrument you focus on, but you all have the same kind of vision and where you want to go. So same thing with food, if you're supposed to make this kind of stock, then I want to do this way. If you're supposed to dice and do a mirepoix, with this Brunoise cut, I'm going to do it like that. But as I've gotten older, I would say it's kind of like a red wine where it's young and tannic and angry and everything else. And then as it, ages, now it's a little more mellow. And I feel as a chef and understanding history, you see that there's a lot of beauty in French cuisine, that there's so much technique and reason behind it. And each region has its own style. And it's similar when you look at dancing and ballet or, music and classical, where there's a way to make something gorgeous with a reason behind it and artistic. So yeah, I think France and everything about it is great.
Yes. So you and I both are alumni of Johnson & Wales, culinary. So I went in Charleston, South Carolina, and your campus was?
Norfolk, Virginia.
In Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay. So my family is French. I did grow up with when my great grandmother didn't speak English, and she made gumbo with a duck out in the yard. And
that's so cool.
You know what I mean? And frog legs from the bayou. I mean, honestly, those things, and that interested me. And my punishment, which is crazy, was to stir roux on my knees on a chair when I would be sassy. Okay. But now I look at that and go, what a treasure of watching that flour and oil turn dark, and just that learning and the tradition that was in there. But I was a sass mouth, if you can imagine.
I was just going to say, who's the boss, mom or dad?
My great grandmother.
Oh, grandmother?
They just dropped me off
so
there.
you got if you sass me one more time, you're on roux detail.
Yeah. You're on roux detail. Absolutely. And we did. It was a big vat because then they would put it in a Folgers coffee can on the stove and just dip out of it.
Or chock full of nuts can.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And so that being, going to Johnson & Wales and having that French technique, which at the time was just a beating from time to time, but learning from that, and it's the basics. It is the basics, right?
Yeah.
So learning that, and so bringing that back around. How much in Les Margot kitchen is that French cookery?
What's great is it's a really small kitchen, so we have about 6 people total working in there. But Felipe, so everyone doesn't know, Felipe Armenta, from Far Out, Felipe Armenta Restaurants.
Brilliant.
Amazing, and has his own ranch and cattle and, Wagyu. And what we do is always pay respect and honor to the animal that gave its life for you to use. So you're not only using this steak and this whatever, we're rendering tallow to make all our fries in the fryer. We are taking the bones that we get in every other day, caramelizing, roasting, making stock, reducing it, making our own, demi and beef base. So these are the things that bringing on new members to the team to be able to come and see that technique at Les Margot and then move to one of the other restaurants and carry on not just the technique, but that philosophy, I think is awesome. Getting in Dover sole that were caught 2 days ago, that are still in rigor mortis, getting in, like I said, these amazing cuts of beef and, foie gras, everything. And it's so fun to play with. And then, as you were mentioning, kind of like stations, you've got your saucier, poissonnier, traditionally those roles. Here, it's you've got saute in the grill and assemble and, garmage and things like that. But you do learn the basics here. Then you move over to here and understand more of the plating and finesse. Then you'll move over to the grill, learn controlling heat, fire. Then you go to, kind of the making love with the spoon of butter basted over the scallop. Like that real finesse would be, kind of the next level. So that's what's great is seeing people grow. I was told earlier, you kind of look at everyone on your team almost like your kids. No matter how bad they mess up, you still love them. You want them to do good, especially if they're loyal and hardworking and believe in the philosophy of the restaurant. As they move forward, and then eventually, we're opening a new restaurant, they can go over there and be the new sous chef. That's the coolest thing. Watching that.
Watch your kids grow up.
Yeah, exactly. And getting better and taking it with you.
Exactly. And being so prideful and so passionate about what you're doing. Hey, I have to tell you this. So about 20 years ago, I stopped eating scallops because I had a bad experience. Food, it didn't work out well for me. So I just had a bad experience. And I want you to listen to this, followers and listeners, because this man makes the most incredible scallops. And we were at a wine dinner in January, maybe February, something like that, at Le Margot. And if you ever get the chance to go, please do yourself a favor. You made a scallop, BLTs?
BLT.
Okay, y'all. Okay, I am now... You changed me. But, and I say that because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like French food. I don't like scallops, which we say French-inspired. You just have to try things too.
Yeah, I'm a scallop evangelist, so I've got one more believer.
Oh, I mean, honestly, it is divine. Tell us about the BLT.
Well, the funniest thing is when we do the wine dinners, it's very spontaneous. So none of those dishes we've ever made before. So you just start with something and say BLT puts you in this parameter: bacon, lettuce, tomato. What can that be? There's 10,000 ways to use a tomato. There's 100 different lettuces. So, okay, well, let's do this little salad. We can roast the endive, maybe with the bacon, we'll do a bacon vinaigrette, or we can do bacon wrapped. Or what if we, made our own prosciutto bacon bits and crusted it? No one is better than another, right? It's like a carrot. It can be carrot juice, carrot cake, pickled carrots, escabeche, whatever. And so taking those ingredients and then finding a way to kind of put them together in a fun way is really fun. Plus, I could have served you a shoe and put bacon on it and you'd be like, that's the best.
And you go, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But you have to, y'all, give it a try. Anything that's out of your comfort zone. I always invite people to do that. Try something that's out of your comfort zone, especially with you, of course. Definitely with you. Okay, so you go to Johnson & Wales. You decide that you're going to be a restaurateur. You're going to be in the restaurant. Obviously, you served your time across the United States being at different restaurants. Okay. So tell us about different restaurants and concepts and things that you've learned about yourself and things that you can't control, the people. You can't, customers, right? Right. So tell us about that, because you had a great restaurant in Chicago.
Yeah. And what's amazing is, again, just like music, if you and I are in a band and we're driven by the passion of, the lyrics and the instrumentation, when you go and play a concert, it's kind of like 1 for me, 2 for you, 1 for me, 2 for you, as far as like the set list. And I think food is very similar. So we had a 5, 10, and 15 course tasting menu. So there's no options. This is what you're getting.
This is it.
This is how it's built. Obviously, you're going to have, I'm gluten-free. I don't do this. I'm like a million different variations of what you do based on likes, preferences, what have you. What was really fun is not a single ingredient was ever repeated. So you have 15 dishes. There's 3 to 4 components on each. You do the math. If you had spinach on the first dish, you're never seeing it. If you had bacon on, you can't. So nothing's repeated in a dish. But I have that huge, repertoire of ingredients and recipes, et cetera. You come in, you're gluten-free. I can say, take this, turn it into that. Let's get rid of the breadcrumb and crust it with this instead, and we'll make it whatever. So it's all kind of, we call it cuisine spontanée. It's like you go into a studio, you can either read music and play classical or pick up your instrument and play what you feel.
Right.
And that to me was really rewarding. But as you were mentioning, dealing with customers, et cetera, you have to really bend the rules. I always say you push the envelope, but don't push it off the table. But get to as far as you can, get the guests to buy in to the philosophy and vision of the chef and restaurant and have them come along. So you come in, want the tasting menu, hate scallops. Well, are you allergic? No, I had them once and I didn't like. Okay. Do
I can
this.
deal with
I
you.
got your menu set. I'm going to send you a scallop just to try. You don't even have to try it. Just look at it. But this is how we made it. We took it out of the shell. It was alive. We roasted it and basted it in butter, finished it with sea salt, and now it's on the plate with this and that. It's just like looking at a painting and saying, oh, anyone can splatter paint on a piece of canvas. And then it's like, oh, well, Jackson Pollock was an alcoholic and went through a divorce and did this. That's what he was feeling. And now you're like, I get it. Yeah. And I think it's similar with the cuisine that you serve. You can bring people along on the journey.
Yes.
Exposing them to new things. But I mean, again, money's always an issue. I'm not going to go to a restaurant and spend $30, $40 on an entree that I don't know if I'll like. So that's where a restaurant, I think, can be really great with that long-term relationship of like, try this, just let me know what you think.
Absolutely. How much are you motivated by all of these accolades that you've had throughout your career? And we're going to dive into television and broadcast, but how much are you motivated by that? Does that set you on fire?
I was super motivated on achieving those. If there's Food and Wine Best New Chefs, they picked, I do everything in the world. I would tear out the Food and Wine magazine masthead and see every name and then find out where they were from. And then we would look at any reso that came in, if it had that name or if it had a certain 212 area code, which is New York or other ones. So who's coming.
Wow.
So always looking. I would, for James Beard, find the last 100 winners and nominees and send a holiday card or a Happy New Year. If you're in town, I'd love for you to come and let me cook for just trying to network and also achieve those things. The problem is the minute I would receive that, it was like, okay, great, put it over there. And what's the next one? Like never satisfied, but not in a, I'm just driven by excellence, but more not resting on your laurels and just, I need the next one to like me, right? I got 10,000 likes. I need 11. Like 10 is just not I need. So that's what really drove me at that point.
Yeah. So being 27 and getting 4 stars.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a tough industry. And obviously you studying not just books, but just studying world experiences and flavors and in different destinations. At 27, that's what got you there, right?
Yeah. So again, at 17, knowing what I wanted to do, cooking school, moving to Dallas, working at the Mansion, with Dean, and then Star Canyon with Stephen Piles, being exposed to all these different restaurants, cuisines, cookbooks, and then understanding that, there is a thing called the Michelin Guide, where there's these restaurants that do this type of stuff. There's restaurants that have little copper pots, like 50 of them, and that's what you use to plate each little thing instead of like giant tongs and spatulas. It was like I had no idea that was even available, like little paint brushes.
Yeah.
So once you see those things, you kind of get on a different path. And having worked at Charlie Trotter's and True and traveling Europe and trying restaurants, when I had an opportunity to go to the Peninsula Hotel in Chicago with their fine dining restaurant, it was at 3 stars. I knew they wanted to get 4. So coming in and saying, this is the new uniform. We're doing tasting menus. I want to do that. Here's the wine pairings. And being given the freedom, Tribune comes out 4 stars. Sun Times comes out 4 stars. Chicago Magazine. So now we're at this completely different level. And but I mean, I was getting panic attacks, and I went to the hospital. And an ambulance thought I was dying, but it was anxiety because I was sitting there. Okay, the Tribune came in. They called us to get all the fact checking. I would stay up until 4 a.m. when the newspaper came out at the 7-Eleven to go get it.
Yeah.
And it's literally sickening waiting to see what this review would be. And then achieving it, it was obviously rewarding. But if you looked at the time, you had Danielle Boulud, Le Bernardin with Eric Ripert, you had Thomas Keller, those restaurants were the only ones that were at that 4-star level in their cities. And all of those guys were, 50 plus. And so being half that age, I thought that was
That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, you did okay. You did okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't judge yourself on it, but I thought that again, being young enough to know what I wanted to do, working at Charlie Trotter's at 20, being a chef de cuisine by 23 of another 4-star place, I felt very, very blessed to just know what I wanted to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in this whole world, how do I say this? I'm gonna go off the beaten path because you know this, and I have a lot of chefs that I've worked with in my life. All of them that you've mentioned, they've crossed my path. I've not walked, and I've made no bones about. I've not been in a restaurant other than culinary school. I've stayed outside that world. Chef, being in a restaurant is very difficult on personal life, family life. You have crazy hours. And I know a lot of friends in my life that have lost marriages, lost control of their life. What would you say to that young chef that's listening to this show that sees that?
Yeah.
Well, because it is a tough life. And how do you balance? Because you're balancing with 3 boys. You had 3 young men in your life.
Yeah.
So how do you balance with all of these factors?
It's super difficult, obviously. But what I've noticed now with post-COVID and AI, generative AI coming in and eliminating a lot of things, people now have to have multiple jobs. You're doing what you do here and social and events and parties and just everything and being in that scene.
Yes.
And if you didn't go to this, then next week it's like, oh, I guess she's not. And it's like, got to stay relevant, got to be in this kind of deal.
Yeah.
And what I have done, whether it's flying and doing cooking events, appearances, television, whatever, trying to have the kids come with me to all of those, which is letting them see what we do, right? If coming into the restaurant, not just to eat, but to, get in the kitchen and to see some of those things, I think is very important, but it's as much as I can do. And I do feel as a chef, it's cool. It's not like you're going to go to, JP Morgan and watch your dad, do accounting on 7 computers all day.
Like, we're good.
So it's cool as long as you can share it. But I do feel, that this isn't what I do, it's who I am. And I feel when you commit to something in a kitchen where it is extremely physical, there's a massive propensity to go and drink after, and everyone's kind of seeing each other and dating on it's a different world. And luckily a lot of that has changed now, especially after Me Too and just the fact that it's not okay to take a saute pan and burn someone to get out of the way, and throw plates and scream.
I've had that.
All that's done. I mean, we all I still have the scars on my back, of getting whipped. But I think that it's great that those things are evolving, but work-life balance is always one of the hardest things. I think of one of the restaurants I worked at, there were almost 15 of us in the kitchen and 9 were divorced. Before like 25. And the reason is food becomes your life and you're scheduled 2 to 10, but you come in at 10 in the morning and stay till midnight off the clock. And because if you don't, there's 8 people behind you out that door that want that job. And if you know that going into it, then you're probably going to limit the people that you date and see and having kids and things like that. And I mean, it's part of it's selfish, but at the same time, getting married and having kids and never seeing them is equally.
There's that. So I met your sweet boys during the holidays. You had them in, they were in the restaurant. Do they think you're cool? What age are they? You just have
so 12, 14, and 18. And I think that some of the aspects of what I do, they think is cool. But, then there's other stuff that
You're a
I'm
parent.
sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I'm nice to a fault with a lot of things.
Oh,
and, that want
Friend.
to be liked.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Friend or dad.
So it's interesting because my mom had 3 boys. My brother has 4.
Wow.
I have 3. There's never a girl anywhere.
Right.
So, to me, having boys, it's being a parent, but also the same way that I guess I work in a kitchen,
Yeah.
I understand what each person's motivated by. This one is, the super artsy creative one, put them over here where they're going to be plating and doing amazing stuff. This one it doesn't talk to anyone, right? It's like that weird person in pastry that every restaurant has. They're just over there. They're on the spectrum cooking, and it's 1.2 grams.
Yes.
Don't throw them
Science.
on the grill. Let them do that.
Oh,
yeah.
science.
And then the giant tough guy on the grill
Yeah.
that has to get yelled at because if you put him in a different spot, then they would freak out. So I feel similar, like emotional intelligence and knowing how to read people. It's no different when you're a parent. And this one responds to this and feels better when you do that.
Right.
And then the other one's different. But yeah, as a parent, no matter how you run a kitchen where every single thing is, in its place and this way, and you come home and the kids kick the shoes off and throw the clothes in a corner, it's just
a different thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you see any of your boys following your footsteps? And it's okay if they don't. And we make that clear. Yeah.
The oldest. So in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, the restaurant I worked at that really changed my path was Todd Jurick's, and named after the chef Todd Jurick. And it was the only one in a 100-mile radius that was doing all of this amazing plated, artsy, cool food using these ingredients, and also exposed me to cookbooks of these other great chefs. What was so funny is 20 years later, when my son was 16, Milo, who's graduating next week from high school.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Went and got a summer job as a busboy at that restaurant.
No way.
And ended up working expo and everything else. So he's into political science and he wants to go that route with college.
Good.
But when he comes to Fort Worth to visit, he's at Les Margot wearing the chef coat, helping at the pass.
No way.
It's the coolest thing in the world.
It is cool. His face is lighting up, y'all, if you noticed. It's so great.
So psyched.
So let's turn to television because you have done you've been on Bravo, you've done the MasterChef and Junior Master.
Real Housewives, 3 seasons of that.
Which one? Which one?
I don't know, pick some random city no one's seen and then they'll believe me.
Maybe it is the one in Virginia.
Fargo. Real Housewives of Fargo.
Oh my gosh. So tell us about your TV time because that's how a lot of people resonate with the culinary world.
Sure.
They watch cooking shows.
Yeah. And again, back when we were starting, there was no such thing. You had Paul Prudhomme, Julia Child.
Jeff Smith.
Yeah, Jeff Smith. Exactly. Frugal Gourmet, those kind of things. The idea that chefs could somehow become rock stars and be on television was wild. Yeah. And for me, the biggest one was Iron Chef and wanting to do that. So we reached out to them 100 times, and finally they wrote back and said, "Okay, you can do it." Went out and did that, and that was the end of 2006. After doing that, because of the accolades, was asked to do Top Chef Masters in 2008, I believe, which was all for charity. So to me, it's like, okay, I'm not competing. I don't really want to do that. But I went and it was amazing and it was fun. And then I had cooked with Gordon at Charlie Trotter's back in 99.
Oh, how is Gordon? Is he really mean?
No, I think he's the most driven person I've ever met. Like up at 4, works out, on set by 7. When we have a 10-minute break, calling London to all the restaurants, coming back, working on production. And then he's got like 200 other shows and cookbooks. I mean, just
go.
If he had 10 minutes by himself, would freak out. Like it's just gotta be that.
Yeah.
But going from cooking with him, and then he's doing Hell's Kitchen, these other shows, and he was, they contacted me, hey, he's doing the show MasterChef. Do you want to check it out? I flew out, did this little, not a taping, but it was at like the W Hotel, and they had 20 chefs come in and try the food. It was like a mock-up of what the show would be. I had my own restaurant. I had no real plan at all of doing this show. Went in, other chefs were there. They got passed aside, and it ended up just being me, Joe, and Gordon.
Wow.
And I was, 400 pounds at the time, tattooed. So
I just cannot believe that.
Immediately you know how Gordon is, and he's going to pick on this and call it. So I was completely ready to fight back on all of that.
Yeah.
So he would say something, and I'm like, well, the reason I'm overweight is because, in America we have good food, not the British shit. And so, people are laughing, whatever. And then I think it's, you're tattooed, you're young, you've achieved these things. We would like you to be on this. We, aren't going to make an offer yet, but if you accept it, you need to be out here in like 6 days.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. Ended up doing it. It was awesome. Next year, I ended up doing 6 of the regular show and 4 of junior. And it was the coolest experience, ever. And then having done, I've done 10 other different shows since then.
Yeah.
But starting with MasterChef on Fox as a network, it's $1 million an episode budget, 12 cameras. And it was like being on the Yankees. So everything else is, it's not going to live up to that.
You started with the best.
Hard. That's what exactly.
Yeah,
and Gordon mentioned that. He's like, you're never going to have 20 people go and get you your coffee every 10 minutes and like hold a fan on you to keep you. He's like, you go into a BBC show, it's like some dude with a camera watching you
on their phone.
yeah, exactly. But that's everything now.
Yeah.
But really, it was being told, you're in a really cool spot and you should take advantage.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to bring this up and we didn't talk about this because I just cannot believe it. And you're such an inspiration. You were overweight and you lost weight for your boys.
I did. Yeah. Milo, my oldest, I think it was second grade, but I went to see him and one of his friends in class had taken a basketball, put it under his shirt and was like, look, I'm Milo's dad. Your dad's so fat, those things. And also on Twitter, this is before Instagram, people after every episode, there would, be a million tweets, but at least 50 were, who is that super fat ass gross guy? Oh, he has kids. I bet his kids are going to be dadless soon because he's going to have a heart attack. Like, once you understand that your kids are affected, not just I want to be there for my kids, but I'm in a public space. They see me. They're going to say this. They're going to be able to go online and read these things. And so that's where I realized it's more than just me.
Wow.
But doing MasterChef with 3 of us, my not persona, but just how I am naturally, right? I feel like I'm a pretty open, nice guy.
Yeah.
I became like the little brother. So someone makes a cheesecake and they're trying little bites and I'm like, I'm going to eat the whole piece. I'd almost like accepted I'm going to be 1,000-pound big funny guy, like the Chris Farley of the food world. And then you realize, I'm 37, 35, whatever. And I don't need to do this the next 50 years. Like I can change.
Sure.
And so.
And you feel better.
Tie your shoes without holding your breath, getting in the car, not being, and like you said earlier, it's a very physical job.
Very
what
physical.
I noticed is losing 150 pounds.
Wow.
Remember like a 50-pound sack of potatoes?
Yes.
Putting 3 of those on your back and walking around working 12 hours a day on your knee. Like, it's.
I mean, that's an inspiration. You are an inspiration because of your accolades and what you've done and the person you are and the dad you are. But you know how quickly it happens. And it's we only have one body. Mm-hmm. We got to take care of it. And the most important job in the world, I always say this, is being a parent.
Yeah.
You're blessed to you're given a right. And so you have a responsibility, but I'm so proud of you. I mean, I read that and I'm like, my guy, I had no idea. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
So let's talk about Felipe and Rachel Armenta because they are such amazing people. And I've known them through philanthropies in Fort Worth and just socially until I've had the opportunity to work with your team at Far Out. How did you come to Fort Worth? Like, what in the world? How are we so lucky?
Well, backstory, moving around a lot. I had spent 2 different tours of duty, with my dad in Hawaii, and formative years, that always felt like home. I would go back for Hawaii food and wine festivals a lot, different vacations, and during COVID and post-divorce, figuring out what to do, restaurants were closed. It was, I'm going to go back to Hawaii. I'm, with my kids instead of every other weekend, this kind of thing. It was like, okay, quality over quantity. You know, they're at an age where it's like, I don't want to go see dad anyway. So it's like, okay, I'm going to be in Hawaii. I'm going to kind of get centered, see what's going on. Was there for close to 2 years and was like, okay, what's the next phase now coming out of COVID and at this stage of my journey? So looking at different positions, things that were available, and was given a heads up that, you know, Felipe in Fort Worth was looking to expand. I had heard of a lot of the restaurants and flew out here, spoke to Felipe first, of course, but then flew out, and it was like, you know, hanging out with your brother, like a new best friend, like immediately.
Wow.
And then hanging out with Ryan and Sophia and Marvin and Vern, you know, that crew. It was like, I was so sad to leave because we went to the restaurants and then we went to the stockyards, that just everything. And it was like, I'm home. This is like the crew.
You
went back to Hawaii, got the offer, and was like packed and done. And lucky enough to live down the street. You know, we have Tavern, Maria's, Press Cafe, F1, Margo, you know, Pacific Table, just so many places. And, you know, it's been over 2.5 years. It feels like 6 months. Yeah, it's just gone so fast. But we've opened like 700 restaurants in that time. Like it's just nonstop. Odessa, Midland, looking at Waco, talking about Dallas now, just expansion and just excitement. And then to be able to come in and collaborate on a menu and have Felipe say, I ate here the other day, what do you think of this? And then I'm like, look at this picture on Insta. I'll DM him at 4 a.m. and he's like, that's so cool, let's do it. So that freedom, learning systems and organization and how to, you know, I've opened restaurants and I've closed them to learn how to do numbers and financials and how to be successful in giving people what they want, but also staying true to your style. I think that's been like a major next level for me.
So
to
exciting.
Get past.
Because you've done the accolades that we started the show with, and here you are getting to do something, and you're learning. And you know, you and I may have had this conversation. We got to keep our brain moving. You know, and challenged in this day and age because there's so many factors that are working against it. But challenging yourself with numbers and opening stores. So far out hospitality, and I've been to all the concepts, obviously, in the Metroplex. I have my favorites, but there's other. I mean, y'all are going. I mean, you're talking. I mean, are there a chance you could go outside Texas?
I'm not sure. Eventually, I think there was mention of what would you go and do.
Where?
You know, is it, you know, Phoenix, Scottsdale, OKC, other areas that are still in this scope around. You know, there's no interest in going to LA and playing that game or New York. And I think Dallas, just because it's down the street, here. You know, if opportunities pop up, it's great to do. We're looking at a Pacific Table out there, Lubbock. These are things where Felipe, because he's so passionate, it's not a here's the strategic 5-year plan of growth ABC. It's I just got a heads up about this, or I drove down the street and there's a spot free. We totally have to, you know, do this kind of cool tapas thing, you know, and that's what we're into right now. So that spontaneous, hey, it's going to be 100 degrees next week. We should look at the menu instead of doing braised whatever. What if we did a grilled this and that? That's the most exciting, fun thing. So different cities, markets, expansion. You know, not only does it help the group and finances, et cetera, but it's spreading that far out gospel of this is the food we do, this is what we love, this is the community, we want to be part of that, and having people embrace it has been you know, the coolest part. And you are with community and philanthropically, you all are, and you're actually helping me out. When this airs, we have already had it, but this week, at Thursday night, you and I are doing an event for sex trafficking. So, I mean, you guys have your hand in that. You have the ranch, and there's so much, which is exciting, growing pasture to plate. You know, absolutely.
I mean, that is so exciting. We're lucky. So I shared my one of my food memories with you with the brew for the gumbo. What do you have a food memory that resonates with you? You know, for me, every birthday when we lived in San Diego and you know, close to Santa Barbara in a different time, and then Hawaii,
as a diver, my dad, so he was in the Navy. EOD is explosive ordnance disposal. So it's that like the hurt locker, you go and take apart bombs, but he was a diver. So you're disabling mines in the Persian Gulf after you jump out of the back of a helicopter, like total cool stuff. As a kid, you're seeing your dad do. But on my birthday, he would bring home a giant like spiny lobster that he got. Ooh. And like that was dinner. Or he would go and pull abalone off the rocks, and we would have like abalone in the freezer that we would go and make at different times. And so those are good food memories. Also, the first thing I was ever allowed to make every year was the cranberry sauce, for Thanksgiving. Yes. So that was a big one for me, even though secretly I would rather just pour that thing out of the can.
The jelly.
The shimmer. It's like a panacotto. You hit it and it blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's my brother's favorite. It's not the jelly. It's the one that looks like a can.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. I heard a parent where they made their own cranberry sauce and then put it in the can so that it looked like it so their kids would eat it. So, I mean, there's a million tricks, right?
Exactly.
But food memories like that, and then also living in the Philippines and going to the market and seeing like a shark over here and, some crazy brains over there, and going with locals and then bringing that stuff back and cooking. And, I would get the fillet of the fish, and then they were simmering the head to make this soup. And I'm like, I want head soup. That's so much cooler.
That's so great. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have to tell you the funny story. You've been around so many famous chefs, and I have been around, but my first exposure was when I graduated Johnson & Wales, and I went to an International Culinary Association, our IACP, and I went to the convention. And but I'm saying this because I see people come to the restaurants and see Graham, and they just do what I just did. I did. So I was getting on the elevator, and I got on the elevator. It was just myself and this very tall woman, and it was Julia Childs.
No way.
And it was she and I, and we were in Chicago, going up all these floors, and my hands were sweating. You would think I would see in the Bee Gees or something. Right. My hands were sweating.
The Bee Gees, like most people will be like, Elvis or like the Beatles.
The Brothers Gibb.
So, I would have been hitting the button to open and get out. Like,
my hands are sweating, and I'm like, this could change my career if I just be myself and talk to her. And I was so tongue-tied, and I turned and looked at her, and I said, "You are so tall."
That's true. That was your intro?
That was it. That's all I said. And I might have not be talking to you today if I would open my damn mouth and said something philosophical about food. But here I am sitting talking to you, which I'm so lucky. So is that crazy? Have you ever had a rock star moment with a chef?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of chefs that
Jeez.
The biggest was Thomas Keller, who I'm pretty sure floated like 2 inches above as he walked in. And, everyone's bows down. This is the guy that doesn't do TV or talk, but he's still on the line at, 65 plating and overseeing Michelin Empire. Yeah. So just went up and was like, just letting you know, like, obviously a fan, but you're so inspiring and what you do. And he was very quiet and that. I felt, again, like, the guy that goes up to Paul McCartney where it's like, do you remember that time you were in that band? Like you sang Let It Be. Like that was cool.
Exactly.
Like that's totally
That's how you felt. Yeah. We were at French Laundry last year, and I was sitting at the table, and someone on staff, I don't know how this happened, but they came to my table and they said, Mrs. Blackmon, we would like to have you in the kitchen after you finish your meal. We would love to give you a private tour. I started bawling. I'm crying. My daughter Kennedy, which she's just looking at me like, Mother, are you like, pull it together? And I get to the kitchen and we're filming and everything. They let me film and for social media, and I'm still crying. I was so starstruck, and everybody is so disciplined in that kitchen. Right. Like, and it was so cool. So
did you tell them that you were just allergic to onions? You're like,
yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Always try to come up with an excuse.
You are such an inspiration in so many ways. You're like your father. How much you're with your health journey, and I am so proud to know you. Thank you for being here, and I know you're so busy.
Yeah, this is so fun. Again, this is us hanging out. We talk like this at the restaurant.
We sure do.
Just happens to have a massive microphone in front of my face that pay no attention to this. It's good to see you guys.
I love it. So where are you headed after this?
After this, I'm going to go check F1.
Okay.
So
Yes.
yeah, generally during the day, it's F1, Maria's Tavern. That's kind of under my jurisdiction. And
Is it?
then I love Margo at night. Just because I
Margo.
feel a lot of people expect me to be there. And
For
so
sure.
they want to come in. You know, a lot of people, I've seen the glasses. I want to take a picture. And I like that
Of course.
show. And that's always, again, love that.
Yeah.
But the food that we do, that's, speaks to my heart.
Sure.
So I really do enjoy that. But again, also the fact that getting to work with Sophia and Felipe and Ryan, all those guys. Charlie is, again, one of my besties. I don't know if you've met him, but he's British.
Yes.
And he worked under Marco Pierre White back in the day. So he's got, this Michelin experience. And so we speak that same language. But he has an accent, so it just scares everybody.
Of course, yeah. But it's still sexy as hell. I mean, it's so sexy. You should get
Thank you. I can't pull out. I just sound.
I know, right? Well, I tell you, speaking of F1, one of my favorite concepts, but I'm working with Alan. I'm trying to get Alan. I'm talking to you. And I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Fried pickles. Oh,
Right? We had those.
we did. And when I go, they'll still. But I just love the fried pickles over there. So good. Everything's good.
We've kind of
Everything's
gone
good.
under the redo from F1 Smokehouse to,
Yes.
Bar and Grill.
Bar
we
and
also
Grill.
opened, a massive one out in Odessa that's doing awesome. We
Yes.
love it. But to have this small, cute little space and to have all this amazing beef from the ranch, it's like, okay, let's expand the steak program. Let's make things, a little more, not eclectic, but you've got your Creole shrimp. You've got a blackened campfire trout. You've got all these cool little things. Yeah. And now with that patio and the warm weather and having the windows open, I think you can see things like, your little hush puppies and fried pickles and, okra. I think it'll be fun to do tons of little cool snacks like that. And then eventually we'd love to do our own line of products like homemade sausages and spices and sauces and get into that world.
How exciting.
Oh, it never ends.
I know.
And then
Well,
a cookbook and I know you got to go. I just
your
keep
cookbook.
I have a cookbook. I'm saying we want to do like a far out cookbook.
I know that because you've had the cookbook experience, so you know about cookbooks, and we're going to have all this linked in the show notes for you. Thank you so much for being here. I just adore you, even more so now, right?
Yeah.
So y'all, everyone go on over to the Concepts at Far Out. Go check out Chef Graham Elliott, my friend, and this amazing man that's sitting right next to me. We're on YouTube, and everyone, I say it every single Tuesday, keep being fabulous.